Welcome to the Sales Influence Podcast, where we talk about finding the why in how people buy. I'm your host, Victor Antonio. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for lending me those ears. If you're watching this on video, I appreciate those eyeballs. Today, I want to talk about pricing. That's usually one of the topics people always ask me about, pricing. And how do we present pricing in such a way that we can guide a customer's behavior, right? In other words, kind of nudge them. And so in my book, Mastering the Upsell, one of the strategies I highlight is the decoy strategy. Let me kind of just back up and then move into the decoy strategy. So let's say that you offer people two prices. Now, you're not known to them, so that means because they don't know you, when you offer them two options, they're typically, in a sense, going to go for the cheaper one. Why? Because our brain is a risk mitigating machine. That means your brain will always, it's wired that way no matter where you go, no matter where you're from in the world, your brain is wired to mitigate risk. So in other words, that part of the brain, that reptilian brain, kind of sounds the alarm, says, oh, I'm not sure, right? So what happens if you offer, let's say, $1,000 option, and then let's say you have a $500 option? Most people, the majority of people, will go with the $500 option. Now, again, there will be a certain percentage, smaller percentage, that will actually go for the higher price. These are status buyers. Now, status buyers are people who always want the best. These are people who don't really care about pricing. They just say, you know what, I just want the best of the best. And they'll always go for the best because that's their way of reducing or mitigating risk. If you think about it, it kind of makes sense. If I have a lot of money, then I want to make sure I buy the best of the best, right? Which is why I will buy the most expensive option. But let's say that's 20%. Let's use the Pareto principle here, the 80-20 rule. 20% will just, status buyers will typically buy the best of the best because in their mind, if I pay more, I'll get the best. And therefore, I don't have to deal with this again, right? In other words, I want to solve the problem one time, which is why I'm buying your product or service. So that means 80% are going to buy the $500 option. Now, if we want to get the majority to buy the $1,000 option, what we do is we add a third option, but we had a higher option. In other words, we got the 500, we got the 1,000, then we add, let's say, for example, a $1,500 one, right? So now, again, you got three options. This is where the Goldilocks effect kicks in. Remember Goldilocks, the three bears, right? They're away. They had porridge, and they were waiting for it to get cool. And so somebody comes in, and basically, stranger comes in and says, Goldilocks, and says, hey, tries all the three porridges, right? Tries the hot one. One's too hot, one's too cold, one's just right? So they take the just right one. It's the same thing. When you have three options for a customer, what they typically tend to do is migrate to the middle. Why? Again, the brain is a risk mitigating machine. It tries to reduce risk. So when it looks at three options, 500, 1,000, 1,500, it's going to say, too much, too little. Let me go with the one in the middle. Feels safer. If you don't believe me, go to McDonald's, go to Starbucks, go to Wendy's, go to any typical fast food restaurant. They have three options. Where do you think the biggest profit margin is? In the middle option. Now, so you got three options. People will tend to go to the middle. Again, you'll always have a certain percentage that will go, let's say, to the highest end, right? And always buy, right? The best of the best. So let's call that 20, right? And then let's say 20% will always choose the cheapest one because that's who they are. But you still got the majority, 60% in the middle, who will pick the middle option. So it's always good to go with three options, and it forces people, in a sense, mentally, to kind of guide them towards the middle option. Okay, boom, you got that. Now, let's look at how do we get people, if we're offering three options, how can I nudge you, not push you, but nudge you into buying the higher product? In this case, the $1,500 deal. What happens again is take the three pricing options, but this time you're going to do something different. You're going to add a decoy, and the decoy will allow you to kind of move the buyer's reference point. Here's what I mean. This is really cool. If I look at 500, 1,000, 1,500, obviously the difference between each one is $500. But let's say I take the middle one at 1,000, and now I make it $1,250. In fact, let's use a round number, $1,300. Now what happens is, from the cheapest, from 500 to let's say 1,300, that's $800. But from the middle one, which is 1,300 to 1,500, there's only $200 economic distance. The brain automatically says, for $200 more, I might as well just get the best of the best. In other words, by shifting my price point closer to the most expensive one, I get your brain to focus in on those two price options, and you almost negate the lowest price. Again, small percentage will always go after the lowest price. So how does this work for you? Do the same thing. When you're presenting 3 pricing, if you take the one in the middle and shift it towards the highest priced option, in other words, close the economic distance, your brain will automatically say, you know what, for a few dollars more, I might as well get the best of the best. Now, National Geographic did this interesting study with popcorns, proved the same thing. There's a $3 popcorn and a $7 popcorn. The majority of people obviously bought the $3 popcorn, mitigate risk, right? So then if they add a $5 popcorn, 3, 5, 7, the majority bought the one in the middle, $5. Too small, too big, just right, the one in the middle. Now, what they then did is they moved the one in the middle from $5 to $6.50. Now, the majority of people said, well, wait a minute, for 50 cents more, I might as well just get a large. And the majority of people bought the large one. So that's called the decoy effect. What you're doing is using economic distance between pricing to shift or guide a buyer's attention. So try this in your pricing strategy. You'll be able to upsell, increase your deal size by simply just shifting that price point. Again, there's no coercion here. There's no pressure. There's no persuading. Just by presenting pricing in such a way, your client's attention will be directed towards the middle and the highest priced option. And just doing that is going to increase your average deal size. So on that note, this is Victor Antonio. Leave me some feedback if you enjoyed this small tip. I'll be doing more of these, obviously, on the Sales Influence Podcast. Leave me some feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, wherever you're listening. And on top of that, check out the Sales Velocity Academy. If you haven't checked it out lately, we've got some great new courses, salesvelocityacademy.com. And if you're really adventurous, only if you're adventurous, check out salesworld.mv. MV stands for Metaverse. Salesworld.mv is the metaverse for sales training. It's absolutely free. Go to salesworld.mv and just log on in, and you'll be able to cruise to a sales conference listening to 25 of the most, powerful speakers I could put together under one conference room in the metaverse. So check it out at salesworld.mv. On that note, this is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care.